Lolpen versus positioning. Positioning wins. Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder aboard the new Swedish top end of the line main battle tank, the Strv 122B PLSS. So, do I like this Stridswagen? Kind of yes, kind of it's not really special to me. I absolutely love the skin and the 3D model and the slight nuances in difference to the German Leopard 2A5 or even its predecessor. The outstanding feature of this tank is the commander's optics, the thermal imaging. It has 3rd generation thermal and it's absolutely fantastic. Then the what looks like the top forehead is a black hole armor. Regardless of what gets shot to it, it doesn't do damage because, well, it's just a steel plate as a holder for all the optics, etc. So yeah, a little bit just like a Leopard 2A5, and I just played this battle. Now, the topic of the video is average good enough for top tier? And there are several things that I want to prove here. First of all, this tank doesn't have the expert qualification. It has a decent crew, but no expert qualification, no ace qualification. And then also this tank has other disadvantages. For example, that it doesn't have one of those mighty sought after lolpen shells. This update was in many aspects an attempt by Gaijin to balance out the several nations, to give the majority of nations something. For the Americans, we have a new top APFSDS for the M1A2, the same for the Challenger 22F, and obviously for the Germans we have the Leopard 2A6 with the strongest shell in game when it comes to APFSDS. We also have the T90 together with the rest of the very strong premium and lineup for the Soviets/Russians. The French got a new Leclerc, and yeah, the Japanese and the Italians, okay, they didn't really get new top tier toys, but they also are quite competitive. Now, let's put this thing into perspective and let's prove this with some numbers, some facts, shall we? And we can see that when it comes to the gun handling, the Strv 122B PLSS at the very bottom of the stat card, in comparison to the Leopard 2A6, it is very much average, right? There is nothing really outstandingly bad about this, but it's also not really extremely good in any way, shape or form. As you can see, the gun, the reload, the gun handling, it's very much in the middle of the pack. But then we also have to come to the mobility, and again, just to the middle of the pack. Far from the worst, but also not quite the best when it comes to the top speed, the reverse, the acceleration, the horsepower, the weight. You know, it's not the greatest, not the best. At top tier, we have so many very modern MBTs where very big nations just put a lot of effort into it, making them good. But then there is the one thing where people complain. Yeah, it has the weakest top shell. But you also have to say that this tank is one of the few tanks in the game at top tier that still has stock APFSDS, which is in my opinion worth the trouble. And today with the gameplay, I want to show you that positioning and just patience, map knowledge, and just being a bit cold-blooded, sometimes with a portion of luck, is so much more important than just aggressively going in like Rambo. Sure, sometimes you see me in a battle just going forwards, being the first to die, and I just try how far you can push a tank, where it gets penned, what the enemy do with it. And sometimes I cannot stand, you know, being the first one to get the full attention of a pack of helicopters, or getting a night battle, despite having this excellent thermal imaging for both the gunner and also the commander. And as I think I said already, the commander's thermal imaging is 3rd generation. It's excellent. It's a bit higher up the tank. Is it really worth 380 to 400,000 RP? I don't think so personally, but obviously if you are a Swedish main, then this is the promised land, right? Makes it a big difference? Well, in the majority of fights, which is close quarter city fights, not so much. On open maps, where you just want to hide and just be a little bit of an observer, yeah, light tanks can do the same and they can scout, which you can't. So maybe I really felt like I would love to have scouting with this tank, to be honest. On big maps, you just see everything crystal clear over the commander's view. But in the majority of battles, it doesn't matter. So, when I looked through the comments of the Leopard 2A6 review and the T90A review, people were salty regardless of what kind of videos I made. Not just about me, but in general. There were, now the Soviets, Russians have another tank for their mighty overpowered lineup. But then the win rate changed, and then other comments are, oh, now look at the Germans, they finally have their lolpen shell. The crybabies, the wearaboos have been listened to. There is so much salt and nationalism at top tier. It's just turning me off, right? That is just not what I want to read. I'm always up for civilized discussions, and yes, I am well known for my rants here and there, but I always try to make a point. I have played through all the nations, and to be honest, this tank fits like a glove, like a good glove. But so does actually every other main battle tank. And a lot of the disadvantages that you kind of see with the tank's armor, like very thin side armor, turret ring, gun breach, lower plate. Like, which tank doesn't have this weakness at top tier? They're literally all the same. Some people absolutely love this and they are really after those fine nuances. For me personally, the price, the stock grind, would be way too much. I got this from Gaijin for a test drive, and there were battles where I really liked the tank, where I thought it has some great flavor, long range sniping, despite having the technically worst APFSDS in this compression by quite a bit. I think you still want to hit those weak spots, because those weak spots also deal the most damage, right? And I think now we can see a great example of patience and positioning. So far, I got two quick kills, and then nothing for several minutes. I was hiding, I was waiting, I would just tried myself to give a bit of a breathing space, and now I see some action from this tank that got shot here. And this is one of those usual sniping spots. Then I think to myself, well, that's a bad approach actually, right? I think it's clearly visible that I just had a different thought process here, and I just wanted to approach from a different angle, flank him a little bit, use here the stone to break line of sight, and I quickly saw him. And I hope for just a split second you saw the quality of the third generation thermal. It feels like being less filtered. It feels crystal clear with significantly more details, less washed out than the first or second generation thermal for the gunner. The difference is really there. The disadvantage for the bino view, which it basically is, compared to the gunner's view, is that you can't zoom in. So let's quickly recap. This tank is, in terms of armor and mobility and gun handling, just a Joe average tank, right? There is nothing outstanding, but it's definitely not bad. It's pretty good, but so is every other tank. Maybe except the Russians, but that's a different story. And then I have both the worst top APFSDS round, and I also have no expert qualification on this tank. And yet, through the knowledge of the maps, through patience and right positioning, situation awareness, and just common game sense, as I would just title it, I can kill tanks that are either better, have better shells, are equipped with better armor, I don't know, because it doesn't really matter. Every tank, even with the stock APFSDS round in this tank's case, or stock heat round, still can blab the same weak spots. Gun breaches are unprotected and the tank can't fire back. The turret ring jams it, and it's very difficult for an enemy tank to then get off a well-aimed shot. and shot through the lower glacis, even if it doesn't hit the crew, which sometimes can happen, and the enemy tank has taken out all the ammo from the hull, for NATO tanks that is, you still ignite the engine, and the enemy tank then has to extinguish the fire, sometimes interrupting the reload if somebody is panicking. Now I'm coming from a different angle, and I suspected that there is somewhere an enemy tank. But I just didn't hear him. I didn't see him, and there it is. I just didn't hear him, and he just tanked the shell into my turret armor. I have all the time in the world, and there I go. He's disabled. There is nothing that he can do. And, you know, that shell, I'm not quite sure if even with the lolpen shell I would have gotten him. And then he tries to go to my sides, but we have the gun depression in close quarters, and that was an easy kill. I was lucky, yes, but I also didn't hear him. So when you count for all the bugs, all the game mechanics that don't work, that you have to go through stock grinds on several tanks, this is nothing new. And so this quote-unquote Joe average tank with its Joe average performance, and arguably in this comparison at least the worst top tier APFSDS, still can decide games, still can cap, still can kill enemy tanks, regardless how good their armor is. And that's the point of the video. Just don't think that just because a tank has a lolpen shell, it's invulnerable and you kill an enemy tank with every click of the mouse. No, it's a bit more complicated than this. And because of the magnitude of negative comments, not just directed towards me, but also, you know, oh, this nation is now pointless to play, etc. I think I just had to make such a video. This is not an outstanding battle, but it does the job. And a well-deserved medal for 2,000 missions played with the Swedish tanks alone. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like if it did. Subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves, in the skies, and on the battlefields of War Thunder.